And now you can hear me, right, Sarah?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, sorry for that. Okay, I will start then. Let me share my screen. Okay, so today we are gonna start with numbers and list logic, and then finally move into extracting and importing data from Revit with help of Dynamo. Okay, so for this example, we have a scenario where we have walls which are say both 200 thick and 100 thick. Okay, and our goal is to add a parameter like say the mark value of it for something like say all the 200 walls will be marked as say A1, A2, A3 and so on, and all the 100 walls will be marked as say B1, B2 and so on, like just to give them a numbering, okay, as per their size to have separate numbering. Okay, so that is the goal. So moving on to Dynamo. So as it is, we are working with walls. So like we'll before we will be starting the first step in selecting the elements. So select. Okay, so the first two nodes are very common, which we use to select an element. Oops. Let me set this to manual. Yep. So here I have 9 walls, right? Now I need to split them up into separate walls based upon the wall thickness. So what I will do is I will simply get the parameter which is the wall thickness. Grab it. String. I would require the width parameter of the wall, right? But let me know. Yeah. So the width of the wall, which is the this parameter I would need. Correct. So let me type in. Yeah. So, but this would not work because currently I am referencing the wall directly. What I need to do is get the element type of the wall because the parameters are stored in two different places in Revit. One over here, which are called instance parameter, which you can see over here, and one are type parameters, which are stored over here. So if I want a type parameters, I cannot query the instance like I'm doing over here. This won't work. Like if I run it, nothing will come. Okay, it's blank because nothing is there. So what I need to do is after getting the element, I need to get its type. So if I go back to the Revit command over here, go back to elements, and I type in element. I need to get the element type. So where is? Let me just search for it. I don't want to use. Will get me, but no, not this one. Wait. Yes. So what I will do is under query, you can see we have this element type, which returns the element type for a particular element. So I have the element which is wall, and if I plug this in, run this, I get the wall types for each of the corresponding walls. So if I plug this in over here, now this will give me the width of the wall. You can see now I have the width of all the walls. So now that I have this information, I need to split it. Like I need to number the walls which are say 100 in a different series code, like A1, B1, B2. So A1, A2, A3, A4, and the walls which are say 200, I want to mark them as B1, B2, B3, B4, B5, B6, so on. So how do I like differentiate this information when I have two walls? Okay. So now I need to add a condition over here, right, with the wall data. So here we will go into the numbers math tab over here. Okay, and we will go into functions. So functions are mainly math functions which you can run. Okay, of which the some of the useful one are maximum, like finding out the maximum between two numbers, rounding up numbers, summing up, and so on and so forth. Okay, and operators are checks like equal to and things like that. So what we can do over here is we can do a equals to check, which is checks whether two numbers are equal, okay, given a certain x and y. Okay, so there are two equals, I will show both. So this equals works with a tolerance, which is the how much like the numbers can vary. So if I have two numbers, say one is 5.01 and one is 5. If you say this says the numbers are not true, okay, because the precision of it is set to that. Let's see, control. So now you can say, or so now it's true because I decrease the precision. Now if I increase the precision to say two more zeros, it will again be false. So it can compare two numbers given a particular precision. Is there a question? Or the same thing? Yeah. So this is done given a particular precision, which is sometimes may be important, but here you can see we have like quite good rounded numbers. So it will not be an issue either way. Okay. So what we want to check, since we want to number the walls differently, whether based on their above 200 or below 200, whether there are 100 walls or 200 walls, we need to put them in to the equal to sign to check them for a yes or no, which will give us a bold. Okay, so let me change the number over here to say y. Let's make it 200. Okay, and I get a true and false for all the numbers. Okay, like which numbers are 200, the upper numbers are 200, and the rest of them are false. Okay, so this is good. So I can do a similar activity for the 100 walls. Okay, closing control V. So this is I do for the 100 walls. Okay, and if I run it again, I get a true false. And now we will go into the one of the things that we covered last day, which was the filter mask, right? To separate these things out from the main list. So I will go back into filter by bowl mask. Again, as I said, this is one of the most useful tools in Dynamo to use. We will save this mask and input this, which should give us only the 200s, and again put this mask in. Sorry, that will give us the 100, and this will give us the 200s. Okay, run. Yeah. So in list, this gives us the 200s, and this gives us the hundreds. Okay, like as expected. So this works. Now The thing is, we want to work with the walls themselves, not this, right? Not the number. So what we can simply do is, instead of connecting it to this, we will simply connect it to the first node, which is this. And again, I will connect this to this. So this will filter out and get walls, which were earlier I was only getting the data. I'm now getting the walls. So string, sorry. Let me add to watch node. And let me run it. Yeah. So I have it both. Okay, now as we said, the goal was to add a marking to all the walls. So say all the walls which are like this, say 100 we want to give it a mark such as A1. Okay, and all the walls which are say 200 like this, we want to give a mark of say, or let's make it a little bit descriptive, wall 200 dash 1, and all this kind of walls we want to make it W100 dash 1. Okay, and so on, number all the walls which are here. So in order to do this, what we will do is, since we have already separated out the walls based upon their widths, we can simply go and start set the parameter. Typing doesn't work. So this is again the function which we use to set the information element. Let me copy this. Set it. Yeah. Connect like this. Yep. So now coming on to the value. So how do we do the value part of it? Okay. Since we want to add a mark, so the first thing we will do is we will get a count of the number of elements that are there in the list. Okay, let's just select count. Okay, so this count exists within, again, the one of the topics we will be covering today, which is list. Okay, so if you go to inspect over here, and here is count. Okay, so we can get a count of the list. So you can see this is a list and this is a count. Okay, so let me run this. Yep. So you get the count, and you go over here, and I want a similar count over here. So this is me simply getting the count from this list over here. Now, why this is important? Because we will be using a range to give the number. Like we need to generate the numbers from 1 to 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, like that, right? And in order to do that, we need a range. So we will simply type in range in the search box. Yeah, you can see range. Again, if you go back to the list commands, this is a part of the list generate, which we'll be using range over here, the first thing. Okay, which is simply a range of numbers from a particular number to another. So let's say we put it into the end. We put the start number. Let's get number, and start is 0 and steps are 1. Okay. So this generates us a list of numbers such as 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. We can change the start to say 4, and step 1, the end is always 5 because that is the count of the list. If we change the end as well over here, input a number over here. Instead, no, let's run it by 4 first. If I run it, only 2 gets generated. It's because it's 4, 5. Okay, if it's one, if the step is at what interval the number will be generated. If we select 2, so you can see only this is getting generated. If we change the start number, instead of putting it directly from the list count, if we make it say 10, it will generate all the numbers up to 10 at the interval of 10. We can run it 1 and it will again go back. Okay. So this is like generating a simple list of numbers like this. Okay, we will put it in over here and generate it. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 based upon this. Okay, so we are using the list count to count the number of items in the list and then generate the range which is equal to that list size, which is 5 in this case. Okay, so if the list size changes or gets modified or updated later on, our range will automatically update without any issue. Okay. So we have a list of numbers over here. I just want to take some time and just show you what are the other options to generate a list. So you can see there are 3 ways to create a list from a basic. Another one is this, which allows you to list down the items together one after another to create a list. So if I was to generate the same thing manually, I could do it. I would need to take each number like this and put it in. Okay, so on and so forth. So this will take like this and this. You can type in the numbers and you do run, and it generates almost a similar thing like this. So if you want to go till 5, you can go to 5, but this is manual. Okay, in this particular scenario, will be better off using range to generate what we want instead of doing it manually like this. Then it doesn't make sense to use Dynamo to generate a list like this. Okay, but in some other cases, it may be more beneficial to create a list like this instead of doing it other way. Yep. So I have a list of numbers over here, as you can see. Yep. Now intend to put this in. So what we did last time, if you remember, we combined it with a string. So we can do a string and say we do, like we decided, uh, W100, W200. Let me check what were these walls. So these were 100 walls. Okay, so W100, and now if I select add, so we have something similar, but let me just add that dash over here. It will be easier. Yeah. Yeah. So we have a list of marks for the walls generated. Then what we can do is we can simply plug this in over here. Okay. And yep, this is done for the 100 walls. Let's go back and check any of the 100 walls. So you can see all of their parameters and have been updated. Each has been given a mark like 1030, so on and so forth. Okay. And we can repeat the same thing for the part below and just change the mark to like the string to a different number. So rest of the code remains the same. Yep. Let me just copy this. Reconnect the nodes to the appropriate one. And then set the value. Okay. Run it. And so we have this script which numbers. Okay, I forgot to change for the 200 wall to make it 200. Yeah. Yep. So this is done. Yep. Now I run it. And you can see this is automatically set for each of the wall to be 200. Why this wall is missed? Mm, okay, these walls are not set. Wait, what did I not connect? Yep. There were two list count for some reason. Yep. Now it will work. Yep. So it's the same code as before. There was just two list counts. That why the code messed up itself. Yep. This is okay. This is the same code up and down. Yep. Now if we go back, you can see these have also been numbered serially, like similar to how the uh, 1 is to 200 walls were numbered. Okay. Any questions so far? Anything? Okay. This is 2023 Revit. Anyway, yep. So this is the first step. So now we have a mark for each of our walls. Okay, we will now be coming into how we can export the data from over here into Excel to get it. So let me just freeze everything after this. So freezing allows us to stop the execution of nodes temporarily. So you can see all of this has become great. So none of this will be executed right now when I run and test the code. Okay. So yep. Control C, coming to a fresh start. Okay. I have the element over here. I have the walls, and now let me get the parameters like before. Revit element, get parameter value by name. Yep. Yep. So this is the name first. This is string. Say the first parameter we want is say the mark. Okay, since we have, so for every wall we now have the marks which we generated just now with the Dynamo script above. And let's get a few more information such as say, so I created a parameter over here called construction status. Where is it? Yeah, this one. Okay, so we will get this also. Let's just put in a few sample values just to understand whether we are extracting the correct parameter or not. Say sample values. I get construction status. Right. So yeah, so I get sample values means I am getting that data, and I get construction status also. Along with this, since we are planning to export this data, it's important that we add one extra parameter to this in order to identify it once the data is exported into Excel, like which element the data is actually associated with. So for that, we are gonna use the Revit element ID, which is a unique ID for each and every Revit elements that is out there. Okay, so where is it? So this is ID command. If I click on this and I plug it in, which will simply give us a list of all the IDs, okay, which is a unique identifier for each and every element in Revit. So now I have this three parameter information and I can start the export process, yeah, which we are going to do as a CSV export. So this is a input, say this is a input list of text, right? So if you want to export it to CSV, we can simply straight plug this in and give it a file path. Okay, file path can be something as simple as a string. So you can see the input also says that the input is taken as a string. So let me just give it the file path of, say I will give it C or desktop. Yeah, properties. Yeah, C. So let me just give them the C drive path. Let me get the properties. So this is the path of C. Okay. Any folder path you can get like this. And now let's just type in and press run. So okay, C access is denied. I need to give it some other path. Documents. Documents or downloads. Downloads should have it. Yeah. So it's this is my download folder path. So if I take say anything over here, say properties, this is my path, C downloads. And if I put this path in over here, okay, and after that I need to specify the file name with another dash, which is say first export dot CSV. Now say I run it. Let's see. You can see this Excel has now appeared called first export over here, created just now. Let's open it with Excel. So I have a list of what I see over here. But this is not what we want. We need it to be broken down much more in order to be able to, like, this is not a list. This is just the numbers. What will I do with this? Okay, I need to combine the all three data together in order to feed it into here to say it. But this has only one input. I cannot feed any other field over here in. If I feed it like this, it will simply disconnect. So what we need to do over here is we need to create a list of lists. Okay. So a list of list is created. If you remember, we just a few minutes ago covered this manual list create option. So we will be using this, but we will be creating a list of lists. So I have three items added over here, and I'm going to add the three lists. First is going to be the ID, which is this, which is 8 numbers. Then I will add this. which is again all of this construction value items. And then finally, I'm going to add this. Okay, so now I run it. I can see a list has been created which has 27 items. Okay, and I can see, so now this is different than the list that we were dealing with till now. Till now, we are dealing with single level lists, which are all like this. Okay, this can be identified by this. There are only two levels, L2 and L1 written over here. Okay, that means these are flat list and these are single list. There are no subdivisions. But what you see over here, this is a higher level list. This has a list within a list. Okay, and you can have list within a list within a list also. So that is determined by the levels over here. So L3 means there is a list within a list. Okay, so these are list levels that we talk about. Like list levels is one of the important things to understand when working with lists. So over here, what we did is we combined the data from three lists into a single hierarchy list with three levels, and below which we have the same, which is 8. Okay. So now if I put this data in over here and say combined export, just change the name to combined export over here. Combined export. Yep. So and run it. So let's go back. So I have this combined export created over here. Let me open this. I have it, but I don't like how I have it. Like we don't want to work with the data like this, right? Like it makes no sense for us to work it like this. So what we will do over here is we'll go back to Dynamo. Instead of doing it like this, we want the reverse of it. Okay, like we want each and columns and rows to be separate. So for that, there is a command called transpose. We'll just search it over here by typing it in. Transpose, which is again, if you go to the list command, which is over here, it will come under organize. Yeah, this one, transpose. Okay. So what it does is it simply reverses a list. So this was what we are getting as the output till now. Instead of getting this as the output, now that we transpose it, you can see it becomes different. Like the stacking of the lists has changed. Earlier at the lower level there was 3, and over here there are 8. So what this does, transpose simply means it flips the rows and the columns of a two-dimensional matrix, like what is we are dealing with over here. Okay, so now if I plug this in and say just call this flip, that is exactly what we want to do, and run it. I should have another Excel generator over here. It is flipped. So now we have it. Like this is obviously something that we would prefer a lot more, right? It's arranged in rows and columns, like how we are used to reading data like this. Any doubts till now?
No.
No. Okay. So going to the, I will just do one modification. I will just flip the columns, make B and C reverse. That I can simply do from over here.
Okay. Sorry. Can we get headers for the rows
Yeah, yeah.
and
Coming to
columns?
that. Coming to that. Coming to
Yeah.
that. Yeah.
Okay. Okay.
So that will be again a list modification. Yeah, coming to that. So this is combine flip. Let me don't save. Yeah. Let me close Excel. So if you have the files open, they won't work. Okay. Now the query that was there, how to get the headers for this. Okay. So what we want is we simply want the parameter we are using to be added at the head, right? So now this is, we will simply go over here and modify the list. Okay. So you can see I have a number of options to modify a list, one of which is an add item to the front. which is add items before the first item begins. Yeah, like this. Like this is exactly what is used to add header to any list. So what I will do is before I pass it on to the combined list, which is this, let me just move this away. It will be give us some space to work with. Yeah. So what we will do over here is we will modify the existing list, which is this. The list goes in over here, and we can simply connect the parameter name over here. Okay. Now if we run it, you can see this comes at 0, 1. Okay. And we can repeat this for the all the others. Like this is a simple list modification that we are doing to, okay, sorry, yeah, this is will go on the list and this will go under item. Okay, so I have this. So but say for an example, we don't want to uh, add the item at the first. Okay, so we have other options as well, like we can slice it or we can insert an item at any other index as well. So instead of say adding it to the first, which say we have the element ID over here, okay, I will do the same thing. So here we were adding it at the first, which was getting added at the 0 thing, right? Instead of using the add item to first node, which is much more simpler, I will just use a little bit complex one, which allows us all to add to anything. So let me type in the name, which is Revit ID, and the index will be a number. If we press it as 0, we get this output. This is exactly doing the same as this, but here we have the flexibility. If we change it to 5, it will add it over here. Okay. But if we run this script with 0 as the default value, then it's exactly similar to this. Like I can even simply just take this. Mm, mm, why am I not being able to select? Yeah. Control C it, Control V it in place. And instead of using first item on the list, I can simply delete this, plug this in, and plug this in. Okay. It will give me exactly the same output. There is no difference, whichever one you use, as long as you are using 0. But since adding to first item like makes up a cleaner code, and since we are not using like it to insert it in some other place, like say 7 position or like that, we will go ahead with this only. Okay. So let me just delete this list insert, and let's just work with add to first items, because that keeps our code simpler, right? But you can easily replace it with insert at any index to do that. Yep. So add to first item. So yeah, so I have the full list over here, and I will simply connect them to this one. Sorry, yep. This one over here, then this one over here with headers. So you can see this has been created over here. If I open it, what happened? Okay, my bad. I connected this node over here wrong. Now if I open this, yeah. So we have the information like we want right now. So we have construction status. We have a header for each one of them. Okay, as you can see over here, and we also have the marks available. So this what we covered till now is how we can export the data. Like this is a correct format, and we can keep on adding like as many rows and other information as we want. We simply just need to keep on adding to this list over here. So we can add and add and add as we want and import and export out, sorry, export out more and more parameters. Okay. Any doubt till this part, what we did?
Hello, Saurav. Can
Yeah.
we connect this to Power BI or something, or is it
Yeah,
like?
you can connect this to Power BI, but this is a CSV,
Oh,
right?
right,
Yeah,
right.
but uh, I don't have Power BI at the moment in my machine to show it. Yeah. But you can
Yeah.
extract other data as well. So, like
Firstly,
what?
we need to understand the Power BI workflows and
Uh,
create a dashboards there, and then we have to
uh,
export the data into that format. No issues.
yeah, so you can export things like, say, the volume as well. Like
Mm-hmm.
you're doing this. Let me add the volume part as well. So once we finish this, we will move into importing the same data back in with modifications. Yep. So you have the volume data over here. This it was not able to write since I have this open. Let me run the script again. Now you should write. Now it has run. So this is the file it created. So it has all of this data already inputted over here, and we can see while we have the ID and the mark, we don't have the construction status data filled in. Okay, and the same is reflected when we are seeing it in Revit as well. Where is the text? Yeah, so these are empty for all the walls. We don't know. So a particular use case for a scenario like this may be that you export the data out in an Excel like this and send it to site. And at the site, they fill up the data, whether like this is completed, say this wall is completed, this wall is completed, this wall is completed, just random, I'm just filling it in. And this is say pending, okay, like whatever the status is, they fill it in at site. So this is pending and this is completed. So this can be inputted at site automatically, right? Like the site engineers can fill this up. And once they are done, they will just save it, export other sample for import, and save it. So we have saved it like just by after modifying it, and they can also get quantities or anything like that they want from over here. Like this is simple Excel, right? They can sum it up if they want. Okay. So now coming back to our situation over here, what we have. So till now we have marked all the columns, sorry, all the walls with a particular number, and we have exported the data in, like which we did over here. Now comes the third part of what we are going to cover today is how do we export the data out? Okay, I will also freeze this script over here because we will no longer be exporting. So in order to import the data in, we will simply type in import CSV. Okay, this node comes. So this node is a little bit different. So the first thing we can see is the file path, which it asks for a string, which is exactly similar to the string file path that we used over here. So we can simply take this, or let me copy it in and copy paste this over here. Here we need to type in the name of the file that we want. Okay, so which is export sample data for import. Let me type it over here. Okay, and now let's run it. So you can see I get the same list of items over here. Okay, but now I have a problem. What helped me last time was the Revit IDs, right? The location of each of the headings. Okay, but this time when I'm working with Revit, if I keep this, it will be difficult for Revit to understand what is the information and what is the header. So one of the first thing is we have to do is remove the headers for each of the lists that you see over here. So before we do that, what we can simply do is, since Revit processes things like it's reading it like this, which is one way easy for us to humans to read, but Revit would like to read it like it's reverse, like a set of keys. If it is easier for it to process. Okay. So if we want to do it like that, we can transpose the list like this. And you can see now all the headings are clubbed into the first item, and below that we have all the lists like this. So since we know all the headings are in the first thing, what we can do is, what last time we added a new thing to the list. Okay, this time we are simply gonna remove it. So if we go say remove, so there is this remove item at index command. Okay, so here you just add the list and you give the indices of the list, index of the list in which you want to remove the item. So we only want to remove the item which are this headers, which is the first item. So we will go over here and type in number. Okay, 0. And you can see all the lists are like the first item is removed, which was in 0. Okay. Now what we will do is, we will, for each of the elements, we have a pair, which is the mark. We will need to set the construction status based upon that element. Okay. So first let's get element command. So this is a Revit selection command which allows us to get an element by its ID. Okay, but you can see our list now has the ID and then the data. So if I plug it in, this won't work. Okay, because it needs all the ID arranged one after another. So again, what we have to do over here is we have to use transpose again to flip the list to make it possible for us to fit it into this list. So I put the list in. This will again not work. Yeah. This again does not work because here we have the 3 list which contains everything. We only need the list which is at list 0. So what we can do is we can go to list. It's easier to search from over here, which is get item at index. This one, get items at index. What this does is, like till now we were removing items from a list, whatever index we were giving over here, the number. Here, instead of giving the number to remove an item from a list, we will just get that item as a whole. Okay, so sorry. Yep. If I plug this in and now run it, I simply get a single list, which is the IDs. If I run it for, say, some of the other list, like say 2, which is the status, I will simply get a list of the status like this. Okay. So let's first get the list of IDs like this. Now, if I plug this item into over here, you can see I get the elements, right? But I still need the construction status, which is in over here, which is the second list. So in order to do that, I will simply copy it, Control C, Control V. Yep. Yep. And run this. I can see I get the statuses over here. So I have the elements, I have the status, which are all both arranged in a simple list, like the one I see over here. Now I can simply use the set parameter to set this parameter of each of the elements. Since I have both the data and the input that I need, I will simply go into Revit, elements, set parameter by name, element over here, value over here, and then string, which is the construction status, construction status. You can put this in. Just let's check the parameter name once. Yep, the name matches. And now we have, say, all of this as empty parameter construction status. They should all become now automatically filled when we run this. Yep, this is done. And yeah, you can see it's completed. This is pending, and that data is right now available over here. And if I add construction status to a schedule, and then I can simply sort this with this, a blank line, and then simply sum it up. Sorry, not at the grand total level. Footer totals. Yeah, so I can simply generate a schedule. I know that 51.92 m cube of concrete has been, 51.92 m cube of walls have been completed, and 37.98 m cube of walls are still pending. Okay. And as I want, if site keeps on updating the Excel and sending it to me, I can import it daily in and check how much work has been completed and how much is pending, simply using the schedule over here. Any doubts still here? So we covered exporting the, like, giving everything a mark, exporting the Excel, adding data to the Excel, and then importing it back in. Any doubts still what we covered over here?
Uh, I don't have any doubt. I just wanted to know, can we change the phase of with this data? Can we add this into the phases like completed phase and like that, or existing phase? Can we do that? Can we change the wall phases?
You win by phases, you mean this data?
Yeah, the phase created part. Like it is constructed, or we can have phases wherein we can say constructed and still pending, those kind of stuff.
Say
Yeah,
make this. So those phases I have not created. Say I have existing and constructed over here.
yeah, yeah.
Okay. Instead of, now I just need to modify my export. Let me unfreeze this. And instead of, say, construction status, let's use phase. I've also not done this. I will also run this and
Yeah,
check.
yeah. No, I just
Yeah,
wanted
no
to
issue.
know that.
Yeah,
Can we do that?
yeah, yeah. That's a good thing. So the thing is whether phase information can be retrieved. So this can be done. Okay. The
Okay.
only question that I have is what is this called? Phase created, right? Phase created. Okay, let me type that name exactly in. Whether we can set it, like we cannot set walk sets like how I showed you. You cannot set
Hmm.
walk sets like this because it's a special Revit element. Okay, so
Okay.
what we have to check is whether phases themselves are a special Revit element or not. So I have new construction, new construction, new construction, and this I have phase. Okay, phase is an object. If I export it, let export. Let me call this phase. Yeah. So I should have now a Excel with the word phase. Yeah. So I have it. Okay. So the problem over here that I have is you can see it's written as new construction for all of them. Okay.
Okay.
But for the one that I modified, it's written as phase. Okay.
Hmm.
Which I don't think should be the case. Let me see what I set it as existing, right? If I put some of them as existing, mm, say I want to save this two as existing. Let me go back to Revit, run it. Not this, sorry. Yeah, freeze this. Now let's run this with that phase. PHASC, CSV. Yeah. Okay, so this is the input I'm using. This is what I'm inputting. So if I'm not wrong, it should have now written the text over here. Okay, so it can write to any other text parameter. Now whether I can change the face parameter itself is the question. Face created. Yeah, face created. It won't work.
Okay.
So the problem is this. You can see the warning it is given. The parameter storage type is not a string. Okay, the thing is what this drop down stores over here, it is not a string, it's a Revit element. Okay,
Okay.
so the thing is we need to get all the phases in the project, get the phase item from that. So if I get all elements of category, I don't think we will have enough time to cover this, but
Okay.
you can get, like, give me a reminder by tomorrow. I should be able to solve this just needs
Okay.
a, like, further processing to LML us to get all the phases and get it from the name. Like if I
Okay.
go and search for phases over here, mm, PH, right? Yeah, but it will take some time to solve out, like exactly how to connect the phase. Like it will be an element input. It cannot be a text input.
Okay.
You understand what I'm trying to say? Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
Yeah. Sure.
yeah. Anything else? Anyone has? Or else I will show just one last thing before
Yeah.
ending.
Please.
Yeah. So one of the things I did not cover in today's session was this. What does this button do? Use levels. Okay. So most of the time we can get away without using this. Okay. Like we can use all of these other options to it, but sometimes we have to use it. So example of this would have been like in this scenario over here where we wanted to remove the item, which was the first item at everything. Okay, what we did, instead of going and doing it like this, what we could have done is we could have get this one, which is the remove item at index command. Okay, and plug this in directly over here instead of using transpose to get only the headers. Now, if we run it, the problem over here is it will remove the first list, but we won't want that. We want it to go inside each list and then remove the first item, right? So here the levels come into play. So if I click on this and say use levels and designate it to work on level 2, it will no longer go and remove the first item on the list. It will work on each list individually. So now if I run it, you can see it has now gone in and removed inside the list, not the first list itself. So if you look at this output, this is exactly same as what we got over here. Okay, so you can easily plug this in instead of using all of these nodes that I used over here to achieve the same thing. Okay, but I would say if you are starting, not to get too much into this list levels, because this can get quite confusing. So like I'm doing the exactly everything what I was doing with all 1, 2, 3 nodes, I can do with this one node and this options over here. I don't need to use 3 nodes to do it. Okay, so this was list levels. Like I'm not going in depth, but as we cover more and more examples, some of them will be using list levels to get into, like, make manipulations easier as we go in. But we are still covering the basics at this point. Yep. Any queries or anything, or else we will end it for today.
No queries. Just share
Yeah.
this script,
Sure.
okay?
Sure.
Please,
Sure. I
yeah,
will put. Yeah. Sure.
that will be great. Yeah. And thank you.
Okay. Thanks. Thanks everyone. Yeah. Seven. I think we can end it. Yeah. Bye. Thanks everyone.
Yes,
Yeah.
bye, good night. Yeah.
Good night. Yeah.
Stop recording.